Howdy do. What can I help you with? You're here for the podcast? Well, there's been no news this week, so there really isn't anything to talk about. You still want it? All right then. Welcome to the Sometimes Serious podcast, where we're sometimes serious all the time. As I just said, nothing major happened this week, so instead, let's talk about COVID and its effects on the gaming industry as a whole. Now, I've just got to think of a catchy way to word this to grab your attention. COVID closes BlizzCon? Nah, that's too accurate and not flash enough. Blizzard loves COVID? Nah, that's just outright lies. I've got it. COVID's unseen victim. Video games. But before we try and stretch this one topic out over an hour, I'm your host, Philip Edwards, and I'm joined by my fellow founders, Michael Palmer.
Hello.
And Tom comes on Bears.
I do not come on bears, but hello.
Hello, everybody. So, how have you been doing this week?
I've been dying. The heat is unbearable.
Yeah,
Hasn't been
I've
that
been
hot.
much on the same boat.
What's wrong with you guys? It hasn't been that hot.
No, my house is like a bloody furnace. Every time the windows are closed, if there's not a fan on, I might as well start panting along with my dogs, just because it's far too hot.
In my room where I am.
Viewers, he's suffering for you.
In the room I spend most of my time. The hot water pipes go underneath the floor. So every time the water's turned on, it's just, oh, okay, what's a sauna now?
I heard in the room where I spend most of my time rather than in my room, and my brain immediately went, are you held captive somewhere in a basement?
I mean, sometimes you do just hear, help, please, somebody.
Okay, but that makes it sound like you're holding someone captive rather than you're being held captive.
He didn't want to admit to it.
Is that...
Yeah, sure.
No, I'm not being held captive. Send help, please. It's all fine here. Please send help.
Nah, no one ever do that. Someone please send help for the love of God. What?
That's just the person who's got trapped in his closet.
and the only way it's kept shut is just some shoddy, really bad film cliche where he's just put a little bit of like cabling around the door handles.
Not even that, it's just like leftover material from a Christmas cracker.
Excellent.
I'm glad your guys' minds went straight there. I was thinking he's just got this giant dildo sat just outside, so every time the person looks out, they go, if I escape, that's going in me. And I don't particularly want that.
Which orifice, though? Like, if he falls down either way, it's going in somewhere.
It's so long and so bendy, it can go in both.
At the same time.
Exactly. So, have you guys been playing anything interesting over the past week since... Oh, wait, 2 weeks for Tom.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys been playing anything interesting?
I enjoyed my under 4 hour run of Journey to the Savage Planet.
He's trying to self-pimp yourself on Twitch.
Yeah, it's not like I streamed that at all. I totally did. I loved it. I loved that. I will go back and play it at a more leisurely pace, but that game.
Without me rushing you and quickly running to all of the objectives, because I had the clock in mind, and then we get to 3 minutes at 3 hours 40, and I'm like, okay, just run. We can win this. We can actually win this in under 4 hours. Let's go.
And the moment we beat the boss, it's like, yes, we've got the thing. We still need the fuel.
Oh god. Okay, I'll run. Quickly look at where the fuel is on the internet. Run.
To Google.
No, it was great. Yeah, no,
What about you,
it was to Google.
I've been spending much of my time being busy the past week, but the week before that, I
admitted in the chat you were playing a game that that everyone notoriously thinks is awful. So please explain.
Yep. I was busy indulging myself in the free-to-play days for Fallout 76 on Steam. And
that's where we're ending this, because he has disgusted us that much.
Well, we're meant to stretch this over an hour, and we've gone 5 minutes. Woo!
Mission very much not accomplished.
Has it improved?
I'm not gonna lie. The Racelanders, it hooked me at first. I was like, hey, this is awesome. But there's still so much broken with the game. Like I just have a tendency to like bad games, as you two both know. Like I'm a huge fan of Two Worlds 2, so that's to say enough.
Yeah, that says a lot.
So like I still found it relatively fun, but it's still Fallout 76. Like I would still not recommend it to a blind person.
What?
Yeah. What?
Yeah. What?
No, normally, as the host, I'd speed it along and we'd move on from that dead joke. But we're not. We're going to stay right here until you explain that. Please, go ahead.
Basically, someone that can't even feasibly play a video game. I still
would you recommend any video game to a blind person?
Hell yeah, I'd recommend Dragon Age Inquisition, because Dragon Age is great.
I'd recommend Train Sim World.
Both of you are just cruel and hate blind people. Because you make them suffer in an industry they can't actually partake in.
But what I'd do is, if they derailed, I'd throw them out of the chair they're sat in. And if they crashed into something, I'd throw something at their face.
So a full sensory experience.
Yeah. All for the sake of immersion.
Yeah.
So stick a couple of fans in front of them, piss into the fans so they get to the smell of a train station.
No, that's the smell of a pub. Come on.
Well, no, actually, I was going to say you've never been to train stations in England, but you have. You know very well that is a very prominent smell. You're kind of like,
yeah,
I know this smell from somewhere, and it disgusts me.
I have to say, these past few months, that smell has not existed. It's been really nice going to a train station and going, fresh air.
People.
Something somewhere farm, and then you just take a dump on the floor.
What? We're talking about the smell of pee on train stations, and you just up the ante to was just stood on the platform. You just take a poo.
I feel like his thought process here was, hey, how can I outdo the last guy that did something? And he's there, he's at his local train station, he just looks around, sees that one attendant just walking up the station, making sure he's not misbehaving, completely drops all of his lower clothing, stares that guy straight in the eyes and takes a really aggressive dump, gets up, pulls everything up, and just never breaks eye contact as he walks out the train station.
It wouldn't even be really aggressive. I'd just be making perfect eye contact to go, right, mate?
See, how come I picture he backs up to the wall, sticks his butt against the wall, squeezes so hard it's like when a duck poos and it just goes against the wall and then just steps away. Right?
Signs his name underneath.
In the poo, just yeah.
It would be like that scene from Bad Grandpa when they're trying to outdo each other in the farts in the restaurant, and he just squats and just and the shit's all over the wall.
I've never seen that,
and I don't want to.
That that one scene is worth the film. It's worth the whole film.
So I have a question for you, Tom. As I brought up on the Sunday show last week, I specifically mentioned that you have a crusade against the word "the." So why is that?
Do I?
Every time we talk about the Sometimes Serious show, the amount of times you've said to me that your goal is to change it from the Sometimes Serious show to Sometimes Serious shows. But with "the," so why do you hate the word "the"?
I don't hate the word "the." I just want to shorten out an already long name.
It's not long. It's see?
And let's face it, that's just how hot we are.
All right, now we're ending it.
I will see you guys next week. I don't know
Should we
why, but I
actually
attempted
talk
to do.
about the topic at hand? No,
Let's do it.
you guys don't want to actually talk about COVID.
I was waiting for you to lead into it.
I was waiting for a response. Do you guys want to talk about the topic at hand, or do you want to keep talking about Tom pooing on train stations?
I would
Okay,
preferably
topic
prefer
at
to
hand.
talk about me putting on train stations, but
Okay, well, there's 2 votes for topic at hand and 1 for Tom pooing on train stations, and it's Tom voting for pooing on train stations. Blizzard announced a couple of days ago that they're shutting down BlizzCon. Not permanently, but this year there will be no BlizzCon, and instead they're going to hold an online-only event in the spring of 2021. Now, obviously, this has to do with COVID because all of the major games events have been closed down. E3 closed down, PAX has closed down. All of them are closing down due to COVID. They're being responsible. I'm wondering if this is signaling a shift in the gaming industry as a whole. And what I mean by that is, are these giant game makers realizing that they don't actually need to go on stage and embarrass themselves for an hour in front of thousands of people to reach their consumers?
Well, let's face it. Would you rather go on stage and embarrass yourself for an hour, or go onto a camera and embarrass yourself for an hour from the comfort of your own office or home?
If it's in front of a camera, you can not embarrass yourself. Have you thought about that?
Okay, but how many people would go, that went really well, and then they'll stop and think about that one moment where they were like, oh no, why did I do this? And then that's it, that'll just consume their entire brain.
What, you mean like every episode of the Sometimes Serious Show?
I didn't want to say it. God.
But yes.
like
What do
I
you
also
think,
feel
Tom?
like that no matter what, they'll still try and overly script some things, and we'll get cringy content either way.
But the big one, the one who did it first, and for the only one time Nintendo's ever been capable of actually being forward thinking, they've been doing Nintendo Directs since like 2011. And
Yeah, it's
that's
quite some
widely
time now.
considered far better. They don't show up at E3, they don't show up at Gamescom, they don't show up at PAX because they do Nintendo Directs. They know they don't have to go on stage and put their CEO up there to embarrass himself playing Connect, what was it, Wii games where they were playing music instruments and they embarrassed the hell out of themselves. They don't have to do that anymore. They can actually reach a wider, bigger audience by doing this curated content. So is everyone going to start doing it?
Well, I hope so. I mean, don't get me wrong, having never physically been to any of the events like E3 or anything like that, I'd love to go. But at the same time, I feel like I get enough enjoyment, enough entertainment out of the already digital showings. I get enough entertainment watching them from my own sofa rather than just being there. I think the only reason I want to be there is so that I can say I've at least experienced it once, but it's always, it's always a problem of cost, especially when you've got to, book flights and hotels, etc., etc. And I feel like not only would they save a fair amount of money doing it completely digitally, but using BlizzCon as an example, was it last year before, I paid for the virtual ticket, got that skin in Overwatch, and I was able to watch all the bits that people that didn't buy it could watch. And afterwards, I was just a bit like, meh. I probably wouldn't do that again. But with the fact that it's there, you've got to question how many people bought it. How many people like me would have gone out and bought it, and how many people will go out and buy it again because they want to watch all of that. So I feel like it's the right way to go. It's just, like I say, I myself would love to just go to one once to say that I've been there.
That you stood up at BlizzCon and yelled "Free Hong Kong."
Yeah, yeah. Or stood up at anywhere that FDev have been and gone, why have you done this? Different strokes,
The
different
thing
blokes.
is, I get the feeling that if it dies, so if like E3 dies or BlizzCon like in its current form dies, a lot of that content won't exist because they won't be holding giant panels because there's no need because there's not an audience there to do it for. So they'd release like content, curated content as a YouTube video. So a lot of that connection between us and them would vanish.
But if they did it live, would they not address comments and such?
Do you reckon they would want to do it live?
I don't think they would.
This is
I'd hope they would.
We're talking about Blizzard still, right? Like as in ActiBlizz.
Well, yeah, but I mean, ignore the recent publicities.
You guys
But-
have you guys have mobile phones, right?
I only have one word for that, and I don't want to say it. So
We had an opportunity to bring the community together during a tough Hearthstone esport moment. What you mean when you banned Blitzchung for saying "Free Hong Kong, revolution of our time"? You mean that tough Hearthstone esport moment? That one annoyed me, if you can't tell.
just a little bit. Actually, no, I don't think I could. Yeah. No, I definitely could, but like I say, ignoring their recent publicities, I feel like there are some companies that would happily do it live because they know that people, I say like us, people who are happy to watch it from home would be able to get involved as well. They know that people that used to go to these events would want to still be involved in some way, would want to still be able to ask their questions and get answers, even if the answer is we can't give details of that at this time, or we have nothing to say. Things like that. People still want to be able to ask the questions and not just have, say, an interviewer ask the question and then have to read it on a site such as Kotaku and all of that.
Ew. But the thing is, it doesn't actually benefit the company to do that. The less they tell us, the better off they are. If they can keep bamboozling us and keep going, look at these screenshots, this is exactly how the game's going to look, and then people are sitting there asking them questions and they just blinkers on, ignore it, it's actually better for them. It's worse for us, massively worse for us, because we'll get worse games and they won't respond to criticism. But it's better for them as a company.
Okay, but on the flip side, we were talking about what's it called, Hunt or something like that.
Yep.
That game, and I told you that I had looked at screenshots and been a bit about it, a bit on the fence, leaning more towards a no, because the screenshots didn't really lend anything that would be telling as to whether I'd enjoy it or not. There are going to be plenty of people like us. Don't get me wrong, there are going to be more people that go, wow, that looks amazing, and just impulse buy. But there are still going to be plenty of people that look at it and go, but that tells me nothing. Why should I buy this? This hasn't enticed me. This has just gone, congratulations, it looks pretty. What can I do with this?
But as you just admitted in your own point, we're not the majority. And cash is king. And let's be honest, the amount of people out there who would just buy the game without looking into all of the extra marketing, without the amount of, I know it's a really old analogy, but the amount of grandmas who go into a store around Christmas time and just go, I want the most popular game, please. And then the GameStop or game employee just gives them the latest COD. That's the majority of the sales come from instances like that, not necessarily grandmas, but people just buying without looking at, hey, guess what? This had really shady microtransactions in it, until we stood up and went no, and then it got removed.
I know, but at the same time, I have no statistics here, none at all, and I would love to see some, because I'd love to see the difference in terms of sales between a game where they were very just, here's screenshots, here's this, we're not answering questions about anything, just here's this. I'd love to see the sales difference between one they've done like that and a game of similar standing, or but where they have actually been more open, they've answered questions, they've held panels, they've done interviews, they've responded to criticism. I'd love to see the sales difference, because, okay, the initial sales for Game A, where they did no communication, might be higher, but if you took two different series, let's say, and then you looked at the sales difference of the sequels, if they maintained that thing, I would love to see the difference. I would hope that the non-communication game would sell less in the sequel, because they didn't respond to criticism. They didn't have people going, okay, but that sounds terrible, and, making them go, okay, so what about this and that, compared to the game where they did respond to criticism, they did answer questions, they did have communication. I would hope that it would lean in favour of communication. There is the key to getting more people. But I worry that it wouldn't be, because, let's face it, there are a lot of people, as you said for your analogy, you get people going and go, give me the most popular game, and, let's face it, with something like Call of Duty, was it Modern Warfare 3 that was the highest selling one? Modern Warfare 2?
I think it was Black Ops 2 is where it peaked.
But either way,
Black Ops 2?
I think that was the highest selling one, was Black Ops 2.
But how long ago was that in terms of Call of Duty? That was a long time ago. And yet they've not hit that number again. But people still mass buy that game because it is that thing. But I feel like that's because it doesn't have enough competition.
I think... Actually, I want to let Tom weigh in first, because we've kind of just been talking and not giving him a chance. Tom, your thoughts? Good thoughts?
I can't really say anything because I don't really follow COD anymore.
No, not about COD. About game developers listening to feedback or not listening to feedback.
Okay.
You don't have to talk to COD in particular.
Well, I mean, it's basically like if you compared a studio like EA to CD Projekt Red. Like CD, like almost like pride themselves on listening to feedback and listening to the consumers. Then EA is very, oh well, we care more about our investors, and like E3, like their E3 conference isn't for consumers, it's primarily for the investors, and that tends to be why the EA E3 conference tends to be shit, and why everyone just skips it.
I think we skip it. I don't think everyone skips it. I think the vast majority, like as we were talking about, there's two different subsections. We're in the vocal minority, where we're the ones standing up going, loot boxes are bad, this is bad, blah blah blah. Whereas the vast majority of your average consumer don't care. And to relate it back to CD Projekt Red and EA, what do you think sold more, Witcher 3 or FIFA?
Oh, FIFA.
Even just in 1 year, the year The Witcher 3 came out, or the FIFA that came out that year?
FIFA that came out. Yeah, FIFA that came out that year. Because the FIFA is something like COD. It's just something that, as you made the point, people just mass buy it. It's a yearly released game that just makes a hell of a lot of money.
Which they don't have to listen to feedback. They don't care. The number's so huge that, okay, the minority of people go, you know what, this feature's terrible, stop. Okay, we don't care. There's still billions of other people who will buy it.
Even though every year is a blatant carbon copy.
Exactly.
Literally, FIFA 20 on the Switch was a carbon copy of FIFA 19. It was FIFA 19, just slightly upgraded graphics.
That's actually something I wish the majority would sort of wise up to and actually speak with their wallets about, is the annual releases of games like that. I understand that Call of Duty's rotated between 3 different developers.
Back to 2 now.
Okay. But it's still a yearly release. It's still under Activision's umbrella. And I just kind of wish that the gaming community as a singular unit would just go, we're sick of this, actually make something worth our money, or stop.
I absolutely agree. It did happen, only minorly, but it did happen with COD. Do you remember, what was it, Infinite Warfare? That was panned and hated, and everyone unanimously went, this is terrible. It still sold like you wouldn't believe, but everyone went, this is terrible. And then they went back to the drawing board and they actually went, okay, let's look at it, let's take some extra time, let's make good on our, and make a good game again. And then the next one was World War II, which, you know, lots of people said was better.
And they came out with a tagline of boots to ground.
Yeah, look, I'm glad they went back to not doing wall running, double jumping jetpack rubbish, because that was so infuriating. But I actually I hate it. They did a fairly gritty version of some of World War II story. And I am all for that. I am all for sort of more gritty, darker realities, throwing things in that sort of light when things were that bad. And yet loads of people went, this campaign's rubbish. And I'm like, I'm so sorry it's not your run and gun campaign that you like with absolutely ridiculous notions. You know, it's not like this was based on a major world war or anything. If you couldn't tell, hearing that.
It kind of was.
What?
COD World War II was based on the Second World War.
No shit.
I'm just letting you know that, you know, it right. Actually was.
Right, so you're telling me that COD World War II is based on a true story?
Yeah, Hitler was a real person.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I know.
Just quickly subverting from video games here, it does infuriate me how many people today don't even understand World War II or know who Hitler is. I know it's a very young generation that's like it, but it does properly infuriate me.
Who's Hitler?
Yeah, that's the exact
Adolf?
answer. Isn't he a reindeer?
Possibly.
Now I just got a really terrible Photoshop in my head, and let's actually go back to the topic of do you think that the game companies will move to something like Nintendo Direct?
To be honest, like, I thought that you were just gonna randomly say like Hitler reindeer or something, because you just mentioned like really bad Photoshop, and then nothing. I'm like, okay.
Because I didn't want to linger on a picture of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but as Hitler. And now you're making me explain the terrible Photoshop that appeared in my head. And
I think companies
bad.
might try and do a bit of both.
Mecha Hitler as a reindeer.
Oh my god, stop.
Yeah, I think they might try and do a bit of both. I think it will only be a bit of both for a short while, as they're sort of phasing out the physical aspects of it.
I'm wondering if there's any benefit to still having the physical aspect. I know companies
merch stores, I think, probably, because there's a lot of impulse buying there, whereas there's less impulse buying when you're online shopping. Because when you're online shopping, you don't have someone speaking to you, trying to upsell a product to you, and you have more time to actually go, Yeah, but do I actually want it? And come to the conclusion if you do or don't. And for me personally, a lot of the time I go, oh wow, look at that, that looks awesome. And then I get that, do I really want it? And 9 times out of 10, I come to the conclusion of no and leave it alone. Whereas if you're there and there's someone actually speaking to you about it and getting your interest, maybe sharing an interest in the thing that you're looking at from that franchise, you're more likely to buy it. So I think that's the only benefit to it.
I've impulse bought so much at my the times I've gone to EGX. Like I've well spent over like 200 quid on just models, just figurines.
Well, it was one time after you came back from EGX that I said to you, "Oh, I'd love to go," and you said, "If you do, take about £500 spending money with you because you'll be surprised how much you're willing to spend when you're there." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." To be fair,
I came back with like 6 different models, like 7 t-shirts, like 3 t-shirts I didn't even want, but I was just like, I mean, it's a cool design.
Do you think, though, that the sale of merchandise, because I'd be willing to bet it doesn't, do you think it offsets the cost of, for instance, Microsoft renting out this entire arena, getting all the staff in to set it up, putting on this giant performance, getting Keanu Reeves in? Do you think that, like, the sale of merch offsets that cost? Because I'd be willing to bet it doesn't.
I'm with you. I don't think it does, but I think it's a hefty chunk. I think it's enough of a chunk that they'd look at it and go, with a few tweaks, we might be able to do this.
But then the counter to that is, if they stayed just digital, then you can have the same impact, because Nintendo Direct's been proving that you can, in fact, accomplish the exact same, but with none of the cost. All you need is a camera, a sound man, an editor, a script, and then you sit Phil Spencer down in front of the camera and let him talk. That's it. And then your editor puts in the trailers, and then that's it. The cost is way lower, and they can hit the exact same impact.
It's lower, but like personally, I love the whole spectacle of E3. Like, yeah, it's cringy and all that, but like it's like it's been said over and over again, so it's cheesy, so forgive me, but it's like our Oscars. Like,
That'd be the Game Awards.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, shut up. Like it's
E3 and the Game Awards are most certainly not the same thing.
Both big
well,
events.
What's the difference?
So
Both of them
video game
have
trailers.
you spend money.
So, like either way, just a spectacle. I feel like is something sometimes really impressive, and like I just love the feeling of just like as you brought up earlier, Menzies, just sat on my sofa or something, just watching it and just watching these trailers and watching these people come out and talk about it. And I don't know, it's something special. Like, I don't know if that's because that I'm very passionate about video games, so it's like, oh yes, just give me more of this. But
carry on.
But it's something that I would want to continue. Obviously, like talking realistically and like none of us really know how long the whole virus situation is going to go on for. I mean, we're years off from a vaccine yet, so like it could just transition naturally to, as you were saying, just Phil Spencer in front of a camera. But like, I personally hope it doesn't go to that.
I hope it doesn't soon. Because, like I say, I'd love to go. I'd love to experience it. That way I can say, I have seen this, it was fun. And I can, I know it's a strange one, because, it's like, you can't miss what you've never had. But I'm not one to sort of miss things like that. I do get a little bit of FOMO. I would love to go, and I know it is the FOMO speaking. I know it is just sort of like,
just real quick, let me interrupt. FOMO means the fear of missing out, for anyone who didn't know.
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
That's what it stands for, the fear of missing out, FOMO. Continue.
Completely forgetting to say that, thank you. But yeah, I know it is that, and I know it's a very sort of for me particular, I know it's a very sort of childish impulse to want to get involved with something that's that big and actually experience it with other people. Because, I mean, you remember when Pokemon Go came out, and everyone, even people that when they were back in school were like, oh, how sad is that? You play Pokemon, started playing Pokemon. And people went out in droves to go catch, all these different Gen 1 Pokemon. They'd be like, oh, we've found a rare one for this area. And they'd go and catch it. And it was just mass
People literally
marvel.
go into different cities just to get a fucking Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. But I was walking through back when I lived somewhere different. I was walking through my local park on the way home. I thought I'd just detour, just like hit a few Pokemon gyms and a few of the like checkpoints and that, and get my Pokeballs and all of that. And I ended up speaking to a guy who was part of the same team. I can't remember what team it was, the red one. And Valor? Was it Valor? I feel like it was. Anyway, and we got to talking, and instead of me taking what should have been like a 20-minute detour, took me an hour, because we were just walking along, having a chat. And it wasn't even constantly about Pokemon. We'd get to a gym, we'd stop talking about what we were talking about. It's like, oh yeah, I'm challenging this. Yeah, I've got this. We're doing that. And then we'd just carry on with a casual conversation. And it's not like I would have approached this person in any other situation. I don't randomly stop people in the street and just go, hi there, by the way, my name's Michael, pleased to meet you. Tell me about your life. Because it's just a bit weird. No, I don't. Stop telling people that.
I mean, how do you think you met us?
Shut up. But it did sort of bring people together, and I did enjoy being part of that for the small amount of time that I was in that honeymoon phase of the game for. But I get that with things like EGX and E3 and all of this. Maybe not so much EA's one, but that's because I have a personal thing against EA. But I would like to just experience it just once, because I know once I've done it, I won't get that FOMO anymore. I won't have that fear of missing out. I will be able to look at it and go, yeah, I enjoyed my time I was there. I'm quite happy to now just sit here at home and watch it on the screen.
I'm glad you did just admit that you have that bias, that you are just like, don't collapse until I've been to one. Then once I've been to one, I'm going to sit at home and watch it burn, fail in front of my eyes.
I know that's very much how it came across, but like I say, it is that FOMO. It's that, for me, very childish FOMO that I have. And yeah, like I say, I'd love to experience one. Just once. I wish I could have been there for Keanu Reeves being on stage. Don't get me wrong. That would have been like the dream for me. But I am more than happy to just like go to one, spend a silly amount of money, come back, semi-regret that, and then go, but hey, I got some things out of it and I enjoyed my time.
The semi-regret lasts longer than semi-regret. It lasts like a couple of months when you're like, oh, I really should have spent this money because now I haven't got money for bills, I haven't got money for food, I haven't got money to pick up the latest game coming out. You just sat there staring at models like, when I have you.
I guess.
I guess.
Be my friend, won't you, model? And then 2 years later, you'll be moving some models off a shelf and they'll fall behind you and crack and it'll haunt you forever.
Next segment, please.
We're still on this segment, I'm afraid. I get what you mean. I get the wanting to go there. I think COVID may be the catalyzer. I think this may be the thing that has shifted everything. Microsoft came out and admitted as if it was like, shocking, that all of their events are going to be purely digital until July 2021.
I'm not surprised in the least.
That's how long they've committed to it. Which means EXO 20, which is their big event, is going to be purely digital if they even hold it at all. E3, I think this is like, E3's done. Because companies know they can do their own thing now. They don't have to go to E3. They can go do their own thing
for years, haven't they?
Well, yeah, but they still attend E3 as like a ta-da! And I think that's dead. I think E3's gone now. I think PlayStation's got theirs, Xbox has got theirs. They've all got their little internet shows that they do during the year. So Inside Xbox and State of Play and Nintendo Direct. And then I think I'm very much with you guys. I love sitting down and watching them because I love having trailer after trailer, and we all play the guessing game of trying to guess what game it is before it tells you. And it's like, is this this? Is it this? Is it this? And then, when you nail it and you see something and you go, oh my God, that's this. Oh my God, it is. Oh my God. And then it is. And you're like, oh, it's a great feeling.
My
But I
honest to
think
God
those
reaction
days are dead.
when DMC5 came up. Like at first I was terrified because it just complete orgasm.
Insert the song "Jizz in My Pants" here.
As soon as the trailer started, I was thinking, oh no, it's a continuation of Devil May Cry DMC from Ninja Theory, because Nero looked so different, and he kind of looked similar to Femboy Dante.
Hey? Oh, I was really confused. I was thinking, have I missed something in the Devil May Cry series this entire time?
Let's be careful insulting Ninja Theory now.
Oh, Ninja Theory themselves are great. It's just the game compared to the original Devil May Cry is like the gameplay's still good and all of that, but it doesn't hold a candle.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
let's face it. For me, the first Devil May Cry that I actually played to completion was the third one. But having bought the what's it called, the definitive edition or something like that,
The HD collection.
yeah, HD collection, thank you. Having completed the first one, and okay, it being very, by today's standards, predictable where it was going, but it was still so enjoyable. It was a challenge. I loved it. Haven't played 5 yet, despite the fact that I own it. But that's purely because I have a thing about playing things in order. I remember playing at least a bit of 4, and I wasn't a massive fan. But they've always had that style, haven't they? It's always been very stylized. It's always been very flashy, and Dante's always been a cocky bastard, and I love it.
Apart from Devil May Cry 2, but we don't talk about Devil May Cry 2.
Yeah, no.
No, let's stop talking about Devil May Cry. Considering we're talking about Blizzard and the effect of COVID on the gaming industry, Devil May Cry fits into that.
I mean, my friend, Devil May Cry fits in whichever way you want it to.
No.
Sideways, upways, downways.
I'm wondering
Crossways.
if it's going to have more effects than just on these media bits for the gaming industry, because obviously a lot of the gaming companies have had to go home. Are we going to see subpar work from them?
That I don't think we'll see subpar work. Where actually I say that we may do, but it may be through lack of communication rather than actual talent. So I was actually thinking about this earlier today, sort of like when I woke up, my brain was just sort of switched on despite having like 3.5 hours sleep. And I was sort of thinking it could have a ever so slight positive effect. And this is going to be slightly long-winded, but I do need to explain certain bits of this, so bear with me. So people have been working from home because of the whole pandemic, because obviously you don't want to spread it and end up with more cases and casualties, which is the correct thing to do. And I feel like there might be, and I'm scared about giving ideas to companies here, but I feel like there might be a thing where companies are going to start saying, hey, we want you, after you've finished your office hours, and this is like before any crunch or anything like this, they might go, from the word go, they might just go, we want you to do at least, I don't know, argument's sake, 2 hours work at home as well. Now, you can go home at your usual finish time, but you have to log an extra 2 hours work. And so it might bring the the length of time it takes to produce a game down by, like, I don't know, a month, let's say, because it's not going to have a massive impact. And I was thinking, but if they did that, it might help lessen the amount of crunch by a tiny amount, because there's still going to be crunch that would still happen. It will be around for a very long time. But if it even helped alleviate some of the physical and mental stresses that crunch puts the developers through, then it would have a slight positive to it. The only major negative to that, though, would be the fact that you would be at home and, for argument's sake, let's say someone has a wife and kids, plural, you're then going to be in your home environment completely blanking them because a company has said you must log this many hours. You must still do this work. This must be done by this time on this date.
I cannot even slightly imagine it having any positive effect in that instance, because it won't be, okay, yeah, now you've had to crunch for 16 hours, go home and do 2 more. That would blur the lines between home and work and would make their lives infinitely worse. I would assume it would be illegal. Like, an employer could not say that to their employee. There is no way. I work my contracted hours, and anything I do is overtime. You can't tell me to go home and do work.
Okay.
Screw you, I'm going to sue you into oblivion.
But they don't, I forget which company it is, or companies, but they don't necessarily tell you have to come in to do overtime. They don't force you to do it because that is illegal. However, it's heavily implied that you do if you want to keep your job.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the contractors are under that kind of pressure of, well, look, everyone else is doing it, so you have to do it. Otherwise, we're just not going to renew your contract next year. But
exactly.
I don't think they'd go home and do it. I think that would be utterly stupid to go home and do it. I think they'd stay in the office and do it. And then, after working 16 hours or 18 hours, or because the amount of developers that we've heard from who are in that kind of crunch don't go home. They sleep at the office. They stay there and just work, sleep, wake up. That's it. That's their life. I cannot. That would be terrible. Because in your head, that line between work life and home life would become blurred, and then when you'd get home, you'd never be able to relax. Because every time you'd see your computer out the corner of your eye, or you'd walk past your office in your house, your office room, you'd walk past and you'd go, nope, nope, that would be awful. Ah, I think the conclusion we can come to out of this is game development is hard work, and the developers need way more credit than they get, and you guys are all heroes.
None of it's unionized yet, is it?
Nope.
No.
Really should
Although
be.
that idea is becoming more and more popular.
Yeah, it really should be. I understand why the crunch happens, even if there is no good reason for it. I do understand it. I don't agree with it at all. I feel like if people want to put in the extra work, then yes, let them. Because, it's going to be from a place of passion rather than a place of fear of losing your job or, feeling like you absolutely have to. But I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I feel like it would be a lot more beneficial for them. In fact, I know it'd be a lot more beneficial for them if they were allowed to just, I don't know, push the date back by, again, argument's sake, let's say 3 months, just so they can work up on it at a more leisurely, less stressful pace, so that instead of having to push a game out by a certain date and then doing a day one patch of stupid amounts of, what was the largest one I personally saw? I think it was like almost 20 gigabyte update, and I was just sat there like,
Fallout
why?
76ers was 50.
Exactly. Why?
I
Just
beat
take
that.
an extra few months, push the date back, take an extra few months, roll it out so that you don't have to have people sat there going, "Yay, I'll play this." Oh, after a 50 gig update.
Tom, you can beat it.
WWE 2K20, their patch was sort of like 60, 70 gigabytes. Day one patch.
Let's
And
not
it
talk
was
about
still
that
a
game.
mess.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to see some form of unionization, just so that they have something to fall back on, so that if something unfair does happen, they have a body there to help represent and deal with any issues that arise. You have it in pretty much every other industry, you know. Okay, you don't have it in every other industry, but pretty much every other industry, and it is there to help, and it can help. Don't get me wrong, every system can be abused. Literally every system can be abused, and there will always be people that will find a way to abuse that system. But the fact that it would do so much good surely heavily outweighs any abuse that it would come under, and would hopefully, in a positive thinking mindset, help produce something better. Just take a little bit longer. The downside is, I think that because obviously they'd push for less crunch time, etc., and so development time would be longer, I feel like the game prices would rise to reflect that.
That's I find a myth anyway. 60
that?
quid is not the start. Like 60 quid is not the price of a video game nowadays. Lots of people claim it is. Like, oh yeah, it is. It's not. It's the starting buy-in price. But let's be honest, 60 quid is not. I mean, how many editions are there of every game that comes out? Here's the silver edition, here's the gold edition, here's the ultimate gold edition, here's the deluxe digital edition, here's the gold super ultimate deluxe platinum edition. Okay, stop. And
Here's
then how
the
much
Rainbow
DLC's
Collector's
released.
Edition.
And how
If
much...
you're Ubisoft, you've got like another 10 editions above that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the price has not stayed the same, and they found monetization methods in-game. The price of video games should actually come down. And I think a lot of indie studios and a lot of AA studios are proving that. You can make an astonishing amount of money by just not charging 60?
Yeah.
I do want to quickly just run back and hit on you mentioned that you think if an employee wants to work the crunch, wants to put in all that overtime, you should let them. I hard disagree.
I
Like,
didn't
hard.
go into that properly. You should let them to an extent. Don't let them work themselves to death. Never let someone work themselves to death. My current job, my boss puts in a silly amount of hours, and the amount of times I've said to him, okay, I know it's not a nice thing to hear, but you look tired, seriously. Come back, like, you're coming back in the morning, you said you'd be here by this time, add an extra half hour, I'll stay for an extra half hour. Just get some rest. You can't work yourself into an early grave. You shouldn't work yourself into an early grave. But I do feel like if someone wants to put in, say, an extra couple of hours each day, let them. You know, not, it doesn't necessarily have to be like around crunch time. I mean, throughout the entire development. If someone's, say, got a good idea and they're like, hey, do you mind if I stay an extra couple of hours? I'm really on a roll here. I'd like to get this done. Let them. Let them do an extra couple of hours here and there. Because if someone wants to do it, that I think I know what you're going to bring up, but let me just finish this. If they want to do it, then it's going to be more from a passionate side rather than feeling forced side. And that should produce better quality. Should.
But it will lead to the exact situation we're in right now. Where one guy says, oh my god, I want to stay on. I'm on the roll. Just let me stay on for a couple of hours and then I'll go home. and you have to pay them for their work. Obviously, it wouldn't be fair to not compensate them. And now that employee is better than the rest. You as a boss, you view, well, he's much hardworking. He's much better employee. Now everyone else has to do it as well.
Yeah,
And then it's
and
the
that's
keep leapfrogging that leads to exactly where we are right now.
but I thought that's what you'd say, but I can't use myself as a boss because I know I would look at things differently, whether it's the right way to do it or not. I know I would. But you with unionization, you cannot, as an employer, you could not punish someone for just doing their hours, because you don't have a right to categorically know the ins and outs of your employees' personal lives. The only time you are allowed to know anything like that is like if they phone in sick. From my experiences of previous places I've worked at. Wow, I'm having difficulty with sentences today. There's always been in the contract that when you self-certificate for the first 7 days, that you must provide a reason for your absence. So, if it's D&V, or if you've got the flu or anything like that, then you must say, and you have to give daily updates if you're not going to be in the next day or any of the days that you work during that week. You just have to say, hey, look, I'm not feeling it today. I'm thinking I'm going to come back around then. But even if you say to them, hey, I'm going to be off for like 3 days, you still have to phone up on each of those days to give them an update. And that is in the contract. So that is the only time where, they are legally allowed a sort of insight, because you have to say, hey, I'm not feeling it. I haven't recovered from this thing or that thing, and I don't want to be contagious or in a disgusting state and misrepresent the company, stuff like that. That's the only time. But with the unionization, they would be able to say, look, you don't rule over their lives. You aren't allowed to know their personal lives, where they like to go for a drink on weekends with their mates, or where they decide to go and eat with their significant others or friends, family, what have you. So with unionization, I feel like, yeah, I see the problem with the whole leapfrogging thing, but the companies would no longer be allowed to actually force someone out, especially in the same way, just because they only did their contracted hours. Because you don't know what's going on in their personal lives. You don't have a right to rule over that.
They don't force them out currently. What would happen would be the exact same, would be simply a case of, you're a contracted worker. Because most of the game developers come from an agency, and then they come in and they work on like a month-to-month or a 3-monthly contract or a 6-monthly contract. Okay, at the end of your 6 months, we just don't renew.
But
that's all that is.
With
and
unionization,
it's just that implied pressure.
Yep. But with unionization, you could push for a categorical reason, and if that reason weren't good enough, you could do something about it.
You'd be hard pressed to win that fight in court. Simply, like the company could simply say, okay, we don't need them anymore. Like our project's winding down. We no longer need this many employees. This is one of the employees we're letting go. We're not letting go of them either. They're not firing. When you get fired, you need a reason. We're just not renewing the contract.
No,
and that's their decision. You'd be hard pressed to fight that in court.
But if they then say, oh, well, we don't need that many, and in, let's say, a month's time, hire twice as many people as they did before, you've then got grounds to go, okay, well, that was a flat out lie.
No. Yeah, we didn't need workers then, but a new project's come up and we've just started ramping back up production. So please, resubmit your CV through your agency. Ask your agency to contact us again, and we'll relook at your CV and maybe possibly hire you back. That's the excuse that's given in court, and then bang.
I also feel like that maybe we should wrap this part up, because we've been talking, well, more so YouTube been talking about this part for a really long time. I feel like that if we continue to talk about this kind of thing, that politics inside video games, that we're probably going to lose the viewers.
Politics inside video games. Well, yeah. But strange enough, I'm happy. I actually find it really interesting pulling the curtain back on the actual inner workings behind the scenes, because I feel like a lot more people need to know what's actually happening back there. the blood, sweat, and tears that go into your video games.
Yeah, and
but
I'm with you.
I
We
do
do
want to
feel-
say we have been talking for nearly an hour, so we did it. We stretched the one topic to an hour.
Literally,
No,
this video is just titled like "Politicking in Video Games." That's it.
Just to wrap up that little segment before we completely finish with it, I do understand where you're coming from. I do know that those are the arguments that would be used. I'm not the person that can think up the various ways that the unionisation could happen in a more effective manner. I'm not that sort of thinker. I'm the sort of person that can see what has been done and build around it. I'm not an inventor of things. So yeah, I do see the problems. I do. It's just I hope we can get it. I say we, us, the wizards, can get it to the stage of unionisation that is actually fair for the people that are contracted. You know, I would like it to be something that is more a labour of love than just a bloody labour. You know,
I'm absolutely with you on that one. And then the last thing I want to bring up, it's going to be quick and then we'll end. But this is a much more serious topic and not about video games in any way, shape, or form. And even though Tom wants us to move away from politics, we're going to dive further headlong straight into actual politics. And I feel like this is a very serious story that it's going to be outdated very quickly, but I'd like to talk about it. George Floyd, the African American man, is that the correct term, the correct PC term? In America, he was arrested a couple of days ago, and there's video of his arrest. And during his arrest, he was held down by three police officers, one of whom we know was white. And the one white police officer we know, who we can see on the film holding him down, is kneeling with his knee on George Floyd's neck.
Oh God!
And he holds him down there, and George Floyd is crying out in pain. He's constantly going, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. There's a point where he actually cries out for his mum. He's in a lot of pain. He's like, please just get me some help. Please just get off me. I need water, please. After 5 minutes of this cop kneeling on his neck, George Floyd becomes unresponsive. 4 minutes later, after he's unresponsive with the cop still kneeling on his neck, the ambulance arrives. And at that point, they take him to hospital and pronounce him dead. And I just wanted to bring up that is horrific. There's a lot of rioting going on now in Minneapolis, I believe.
yeah.
And it's all based around this because, quite frankly, the community is shocked and horrified that this could even happen, especially whilst there were people there filming this officer, filming him killing a black man for no good reason. They had him handcuffed and they had him pinned to the ground with 2 other officers on his legs and chest. There was no need to be kneeling on his throat. None. You, officer, and I don't, normally I'd like to wait for the full story to come out and then make a judgment. I'm willing to make the stand here. You, police officer, who knelt on his neck for 9 minutes killing him, are a scumbag. And you deserve to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. You are a murderer.
I saw this story when I was putting the newspapers out at work. I had a quick skim over it and was absolutely disgusted. And being on like loads of meme sites and that, some of them, when something to do with cops is posted, you always get that mixed bag of, I hate the police too. They're just doing their job. Stop, chill. This is one of those times where I can completely understand why people hate the police, because it doesn't matter how many good officers there are out there. It doesn't matter how many exceptional officers are out there that do their jobs so brilliantly. It will always be ruined by people like this. People that actually bring out a very primal hatred in me personally, that the anger is the fact that this even had a chance of happening is and I feel so sorry for the family and friends of the deceased. I wish them all the best in coping with this loss. But that guy, that officer that knelt on his neck for 9 minutes. Oh, wow. Just wow. I am so with you. Punished to the fullest extent of the law, because I really don't feel like there is enough that can be done in justice for what happened.
Derek Chauvin, Chauvin, is the officer who kneeled on his neck. I will say that there's a lot of rioting and a lot of looting, and I absolutely don't condone that. That's not the way to get this point across. But one thing that did come out of the looting is there was an amazing shot. A bunch of armed civilians who, I know this is going to sound really offensive when it initially comes out of my mouth, but I mean it in like the best terms possible. They look like rednecks. They look like hick rednecks. And they even say that in the video. And they are stood out around local stores, just stood there with their guns to protect the stores from the looters. And when they were interviewed, they are actually amazing guys. And this is why it's so amazing. They agree that this cop should be punished. George Floyd did not need to die, and it's horrible that he did. And they fully support what these protests are about. But they know that looting is not the right way to do it. They know looting is not the right thing to do, and it's such a beautiful sight seeing these white rednecks holding guns who you would expect to be the kind of people who would yell horrible racial slurs, actually standing there going, no, we love this community, and he should not have been killed. It's disgusting that he was. And it's that kind of gave me a little bit of like humanity's not terrible. There are some real terrible people in it, like Derek, whatever your last name is. There are some real terrible people in it. But there are some actual legends as well. There are people who want to protect their community while still seeing justice done. And
yeah,
I can't. There's hope there, but oh my god, they need to punish him, and they need to punish that cop so severely that I'm not sure there's any way to justify what he did. And if there's not, and I know it's a human life, he should be made an example of. Mm-hmm. You have to hold him up as the pillar to go, this is not acceptable. This is not allowed to happen. We're better than this. You treat every human being equally. It doesn't matter. Like, if someone walks up to you on the street, it doesn't matter how they look. It matters on their actions. It matters. You give them the respect you would expect back. Would that cop honestly want an African American cop kneeling on his throat for 9 minutes, even though he's crying out for help? He's begging, please, just get off my neck, please, I can't breathe. And the other officer, this blew my mind. The other officer stood there and he says to the crowd, because the crowd's going, he can't breathe, get off him. The other officer goes, he can talk so he can still breathe. How dare you?
It either comes down to just pure idiocy or pure racism. Like there doesn't seem to be an in-between.
This... sorry, if anything from what I'm about to say comes out of my mouth incorrect, I don't mean it as such. I'm just still trying to reword it. I'm still trying to word everything as I speak, so bear with me here. But the fact that people of that disposition can get into the force and commit such vile acts still blows my mind. Why is there not a stricter screening process? Why are you allowing people who are that uncivilized, that horrendous, to be in such a position of power that things like this happen.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my absolute mind that we have not come up with a far better process to make sure that this is not going to happen. Because it's not just a bad look for that individual or the force as a whole. So technically we're not meant to use the word force anymore, are we? Anyway, it's a poor reflection on whoever said yes to hiring them, whoever trained them, and whichever station, whichever place, whichever city they were working at. It's such a knock-on effect in such a negative way for everyone involved in the terms of dealing with the person that was in the wrong, that why have people not come together, even if it is just in personal interest, to come up with a far better way to get the right people in the right positions? And I know there's going to be nepotism in there. Doesn't necessarily mean it was for this horrible individual, but with every profession there is a level of nepotism somewhere. You know, there is always some level of nepotism, and it's just a horrible thing to have to look at and question why we as a society, as an entire species, have not sought out to better ourselves on every aspect.
I completely agree. It's so horrible. I would like to say the cops involved in the incidents were fired. Almost immediately they were fired, which I think
They
is
were
damning
fired.
in its own right.
It is, but it's not good enough.
I want Derek arsehole, because I'm not going to even bother pronouncing your last name, you scum. I want him in his loneliest moments in the coming months, when charges of murder are being pressed against him. I want him to look at that badge he used to hold and think he was so big. What do the words on that say? Protect and serve. That was your job. Protect and serve. Not rule and dominate. Not subjugate. Protect and serve. George Floyd was someone you had to protect and serve. He may have been doing something illegal. That doesn't strip him of all of his human rights. He was a human being. Protect and serve. That's all there is to it. Unless anyone else has some horrifying things to say about that, I think we'll end. Oh.
I've got nothing to add other than I just have all the negative thoughts for that idiotic,
That piece
very
of
rude
shit.
words. No,
There you go,
no,
I'll say it.
No, I was going for far worse, but yeah, to be a bit more mild, yes.
I don't believe in God, and I hate saying thoughts and prayers, but the absolute sympathy and best well wishes to the family, because they didn't deserve to lose a brother or a son. They didn't deserve that because of some arsehole. So absolutely all the best to them. Stop rioting, please, Minneapolis, please. You are destroying your own point, but I get it. I absolutely get it, but also stop.
The problem is that I'm worried that this is going to the rioting is going to continue, and people are going to use it as an excuse to continue rioting and looting, as we've seen before in past protests.
Yep, it will. And the mayor and the governor of Minneapolis will have to crack down, and they'll have to do things, and I hope they handle it. But no, the thing is, in those riots, there are bad actors, and those bad actors need to be punished. The rest of the people are out there to say, this is horrible. You cannot let this man get away with murdering like this black man who, yeah, he committed a crime, which I know is going to constantly be brought up. Oh yeah, but he'd committed a crime. That doesn't mean he deserves to be killed. He wasn't out there waving a gun around. If you see the footage of him being arrested, he gets taken out of the car, put in handcuffs, pushed against a wall, not like pushed, sat down against a wall, put in a cop car. That's where the footage ends. Then the next footage we see is of the people on the street filming him on the ground, having his neck crushed in by some racist arsehole. I cannot imagine a crime he committed that deserved that punishment. So, sorry to leave you all on that anger-inducing horror story, but, you know, just wanted to say absolute best to the family, because, you know, they need it. And I think that'll about wrap us up. I can't believe we managed to stretch the one topic over an hour. Congrats, guys. You did good.
Yeah.
Should we try and find something to just put on to end on a more lighter note?
No, we're ending on this. Thank you all for listening to our ramblings about the video game industry for another week, another hour. We'll see you on Sunday for the Sunday show, probably. I assume, yes, we will see you on Sunday for the Sunday show. I'm making it my decree.
We will make sure you're there.
Who, me or them?
Them.
That sounds creepy, like we're going to go to their homes and force them to watch. We're not going to do that.
A decree so
amazing
powerful
day.
it physically summons them.
No. Hope you all had an amazing day. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you enjoyed it, share it with someone that you think would also enjoy it. Because that's how we'd grow and be able to talk to more of your friends and you. I think that's about it. Unless you guys want to say anything.
Not really, just echoing what you guys were saying. Just deepest condolences to the family and from all of us. That's it, really.
I was expecting a long, uncomfortable silence there.
As nobody wants to say anything. So,
No.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.